Okay, for today, we have to be able to factor out a GCF. And then, I like this terminology, I use it myself, brute force factoring. What in the heck is that? Well, let's see. Everybody find this one. What's the GCF here? 3x, good. 3x comes out. And then, now what? Yes, ma'am?
You have x minus 5. You use 6.
6. I could tell you were quick in your head going, that times that. Oh, yeah, 6, because it makes it 18. All right, good. We're done. And just to clarify, if you were just doing the easiest part of the test, it might be just factor. But then on the part where you like have to get through the harder questions, you know, the R3s, they'd make you say the two solutions. Don't think this is like super hard. But one of them's 6. And what's the other one?
0.
0, good. Because that also could make this equation 0 if you put a 0 right there. Okay, so the two solutions are 0 and 6. All right, how about this one? A lot of people, I didn't really talk about this very much, and a few people asked me about it, but maybe I haven't done enough of these. This is 6x, and this is 6x. Think about why. Because it needs to make 36x squared. And then, what's the 100 break up into? What goes here and here? Come on, you can do this. 10 and 10, yeah. 10 times 10 makes 100. And then, there's no middle term, so we want them to cancel. If I make them both negative, that wouldn't make a negative 100. So obviously, one has to be plus and one has to be minus. And then look, outside, inside, makes 60x and negative 60x, and those cancel. So yay, I'm done. And if you left it this way, I would definitely be like, oh, dang it, he or she was so close. But why isn't it factored all the way? Because there's still something in this and this. What's in both of them?
6.
6 isn't in 10. 2 goes into both of them. So 2 comes out here, and then you get 3x plus 5. And 2 comes out of both of these. So you again get 3x minus 5. And then I could even probably take that as a final answer. It would just be nicer if you put the 2's together and make a 4. Okay? So 4 in the front.
Then couldn't you pull 3 too?
Nope, I get what you mean. There's a 3 here and there's a 3 there. There'd have to be a 3 here also. So 4,
And both are correct.
3x plus 5, and 3x minus 5. There's the final answer. Now, a really, really smart kid would have noticed that there was a 4 in 36, and there was a 4 in 100 at the beginning. That's called the GCF. We didn't have to notice it there. But if we had, we would have gone, oh, so 4 factors out of this, and then I get 9, yeah. 9x squared minus 4 factors out of 100, 25. And then it would have been easier to go right to here. You see what I mean? Okay. And then this last thing is called factor by using the brute force method. Sounds like you're going to like break down the door or something. Well, it just means we don't have an awesome way of knowing what numbers make the 60 up. Do you get it could be 6 and 10? Do you get it could be 2 and 30? Do you get it could be, I don't know, tell me some more. 20 and 3. All of those make 60. So which is it? It's just, I think they could have said factor by guess and check, and it would have also been an appropriate way to say it. But brute force is just like, I'm going to keep trying things until it works. Okay, it's like keep banging on the door until somebody finally opens it. So I'm going to know that it's a plus and a minus, though. That much I know. Because why? Because it's a negative 60. Now it's just a matter of where, and it looks like you found it.
X plus 6 and x minus 10.
So 6 and 10 was it. Now, how do you know for sure that you're right? Probably because you checked it. How do you check
6
it?
and 10 multiply out to negative 60, and then you add negative 10x to positive 6x, and you end up with minus 4x.
All right. Now, here's the way I would just ask everybody to look at this. What does that make? And what does that make? And together, do they make negative 4x? Well, this is negative 10x. This is positive 6x. And you put them together, and you get negative 4x. I know it's worked. All right, so let's just try a couple more. You're going to have to do these. The first one, I hope, is like, boom, easy. Except what? It's a plus in the middle. I actually think the teacher messed up and thought that that was a minus. But we can factor something out of it at least. It may not go to 2 parentheses though, because there's no minus in the middle. It's called difference of squares for a reason. And this is the sum of squares, which is not a thing. So all you can factor out is a what?
25.
25. And then you got x squared plus 4. Now remember, difference of squares ones would factor further, but only if that was a minus. Okay. How about this one? Step 1. Look for a GCF that can come out. Lydia, what's a GCF that comes out of everything here? 10 comes out. Josh, tell me what we get next when we take the 10 out.
Then you want to do x minus 10x plus 4.
That's it. Ryan, break it up a little further. Just do the 3 steps. What's the first number? It's got to be something in the front here. What's this?
X.
X and X. And then try to figure out whether it's minus minus, plus minus, or plus plus.
Would it be minus minus?
It is. And I can give you a bold statement. Whenever this is positive, but this is negative, it has to be 2 negatives.
Because in order for the negative to add up into a negative.
Yep.
With the y-intercept being positive.
Yep. Okay. So now there's only 2 choices. It's either 2 times 2 or 4 times 1. And you got to think of which one is going to make a 10 in the middle.
Neither.
Neither one. What the heck? Well, I'm just going to double check and make sure we didn't make any little dumb little mistakes. We factored out a 10, and then we got this, okay. And then, dang, that one doesn't factor any further. Maybe that's the theme on this page, because both the last one and this one, you could factor something out, but you couldn't like get the satisfaction of factoring it the rest of the way. There's no way, because this makes negative 5x, and if I used a 2 and a 2,
You get 4.
that's not going to make negative 10. So that's it. I was done right there. That is factored. I know it doesn't seem factored, but it's factored. Okay. Moving on to this one. This is the kind that'll separate the A's from the B's. And you might be thinking, well, and I'm out. But everybody give this a shot, and I'll get you started on it. It can't be x and x, right? Because that would just make x squared. So what's got to be in here that wasn't there before? It can't just be x and x. What does it have to be? How do you make 7x squared with a what? I know some of you were thinking like 3.5 and 3.5, but that 3.5 times 3.5 does not make 7. If you added them, it would make 7. So that's not it. Ah, then this is the key moment right here where some of you are going to be able to get the C very easily on this test. And many of you will get the B, but very few will get the A unless you get this part. What do you think?
There's the way of factoring it by doing the A times C and then.
You are correct, but for one thing, right now, I'm trying to keep it really simple. I just want to know what goes here and here. There's a thing called the AC method, but right now, x times x does not make 7x squared, so I'm already stumped. Yes?
Aren't all 3 of those numbers prime?
And even though they are, it could still factor. One thing at a time. All right, you'd have to have a 7x and an x. That's
That was,
key. Next, if this is negative, every single time it has to be a plus and a minus. Has to be. I don't know where the plus is, but one of these has to be plus and one has to be minus. If this is going to be negative, you have to have one plus and one minus. We can always move them later, but just slap in a plus and a minus. And now a 13, you said it already, you're right, it's prime. That means the only choice is 13 and 1.
which doesn't make sense.
And if I put the 13 here, I'll get a huge number, which won't make 17. It'll be way bigger than 17. So that's a bad idea. So then I put the 13 here, and then there's got to be a 1 here, and that's going to be a 7 and a 13, which won't make 17. That is the theme for the whole page. This is the crappy page. None of them factor nicely. But could that happen to you on the test? Yeah. Sometimes they just don't factor. Almost every time they factor. But this is the page where we remind you. Sometimes they don't all factor. All right. Now, the rest of these are pretty much always going to factor. Just be aware that rarely it just doesn't work. All right. 18 and 75. This is not instantly obvious, but 2 does not go into both of them, but 3 does. Very good. Everybody factor that 3 out. Kai, can you do this in your head? And by the way, this is probably a good moment to remind you, you will be allowed to use a calculator on the test, which means that right here, you'd be like, okay, what goes into them? You divide 75 by 2, and it's like, oh, doesn't work. Probably knew that one. But divide by 3, oh, you could use a calculator. Kai, do you know these?
6x squared minus 25.
You got it. But it won't factor. You know how, he's right, it won't factor. You know how I know for sure it doesn't factor? That was perfect. That's a minus. And dang it. If that 6 had been a 9 or a 4 or a 144, any perfect square, this would have factored. But that's not a perfect square, so it doesn't factor. You could try all day long, and it wouldn't work. Okay, so we're done. That factored it. Okay, how about this one? Caroline, are those both even numbers?
Yeah.
So we for sure know 2 comes out. If you ever know that, don't like try to factor the biggest possible thing out of it. It takes too long. Just factor the 2 out. Caroline, what do we get when we take a 2 out of both of them?
So 25x squared.
Yup.
And then times,
2 times what makes 32?
is that 16?
It is. Good job. And now do you notice something special about this and this? Perfect squares. All right. Today's the last day of new stuff. Tomorrow is a review day where you're going to take a practice quiz on this stuff. Then I'm going to be gone. My daughter's graduating from NDSU. She just called this morning and said she's made it. Barely, but she did. And she was so sick, it was really close call, but she made it. So I get to go up and watch her graduate from college. Then you guys will have, let's see, I'll pause for a second while I'm explaining this stuff. So that's what, just clarifying what this week was going to look like, and next week too. Then this becomes, I hope you know this, 5x, 5x, 4, 4, plus, minus. I'm assuming that you guys have this down. How many of you did have that down? Okay, good. Okay, so what am I most scared about on this next test? These right here. Not that they're all like this. It's just to get the highest grade on this test, you'll have to first factor out a GCF, like there's something in everything, and then it'll factor again, and one of the lead terms won't be x. It won't be x and x. On the hardest problems, it'll be like 2x and x. You know what I mean? There'll be some different lead terms than just x. So this is the kind I'm more scared about for you, is can you factor something out of everything? Most people can. But can you then factor it with a 2 in front? Let's find out. So everybody start with this one. Do you get that 2 comes out of everything? But wait, there's something even better. 4 comes out of everything. So this actually turned out to not be that hard. Ryan, after I factor a 4 out, can you tell me what I have left?
X squared plus 10x minus 11.
Correct, sir. Hazel, how do I factor it from there? There's three steps. What's the first thing?
X and X.
Yep.
And then plus and minus.
Plus and minus.
And then 10 and 1.
10 and 1 makes 11?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
11 and 1.
There you go. There's 11 and a 1. And now let's just be extra careful. Yes, you could just slap it in and see if it worked, but it's kind of messy. I know I want it to come out to be positive 10. Be strategic then, Hazel. Which one do you think should get the plus sign, the 11 or the 1?
The 11.
There you go. And that way you can just be extra sure that when you go like this and this, it'll really make 10x. Yay, it did. Now, again, chance to screw up. Do you know how to get the final answer then? What do you mean? I thought there was a final answer. The final answer will be, what makes this equal 0? What makes this equal 0? Do you get how that's the solutions? It's one step further than factoring, okay? So if you want an A or a B, you're going to have to be able to go that next level, and you'll have to be able to factor out GCFs. All right, now let's have you try this one, if you haven't already. Truckee, what do you think comes out of everything here?
5.
Yes. And honestly, I totally get you might need a calculator for that. If you do, go ahead, use your iPad. On the test, you won't be able to use your iPad, but you'll be able to use a calculator. So bring a calculator. Okay? It'll be really, really helpful. You know I got a few extra, but if you're going to use mine, you have to go up and sit by me up in front. Because I only have a couple, and there might be 4 people that need it. So, what is 80 divided by 5? Somebody must know it by now. 16. And then I'm almost done. 3-step process. After you get the GCF out, that's kind of like step 0. Now step 1, x and x. Step 2, dang. How do I get a positive 16 but a negative 8 right there? Yes.
Two negative 4s.
Negative, negative, and they're both 4s. You are correct. That makes negative 8x. Yay. And what if they made you do the extra little, like, what's the solution, Kai?
X equals 4.
Good. And you don't have to say it twice, because obviously they both would be that. There you go. So now it just comes down to practice. And you've probably heard this, practice makes perfect. You're not going to do the scavenger hunt. We are going to do some more practice of these that have the weird number in front. Now, these problems, you can either just write down, which is totally fine, or there is another set of notes in Schoology. If you're this super techie type who can be like, I can 3 touches, I can pull that up, go ahead. Or you can just write these down. But we're gonna do like 5 more that have a weird number in front. This is me trying to coach kids who could easily get a C, but want a B or an A, because that's what you need to do on this test. You gotta answer some of these. All right, 3-step process, right? First you look and see, actually step 0, is there anything in all 3 of them? No. So then I'm done there. 3-step process is 2x and x. Should it be a plus and a minus and a plus, or a minus and minus?
Minus, minus.
Good, because this comes out positive, but this comes out negative. The only way to do that, minus, minus. Now it's got to be a 5 and a 1.
Doesn't work because 5 and 7 are right.
A lot of people are saying it's not gonna work. I'm gonna try it at least. So 5 times 1, did you agree? If I put a 5 here and a 1 here, I end up getting a negative 11. That didn't work. But have I tried everything yet? No, I haven't tried everything. I'm gonna move the 5 over here and see if that's different. Is it? Negative 2x for this and negative 5x for that. What does that make? Negative 7x. So these are a little harder than you might have thought. This one worked. You can't just tell until you've tried it both ways. 5 and a 1 is different than a 1 and a 5. You might have thought it was never different, but it is. Because there's a 2 in front, now you got to check it both ways. How do you know you're done? Is that if you can multiply this back out. If there was only one base skill to factoring, like you could only bless the kid with one thing, it would be they've got to know how to multiply this out.
Yeah, that works.
Oops, missed. And then I just make sure it actually simplifies down to what I wanted it to. Yes, that's what I wanted it to be. And the only way you can know for sure, multiply it out. But this test is the only test all year where you can know you're right when you walk out of the test. You can be like, either I know I got it or I know I didn't get it. How? Because you multiply them back out, and if they work, you got it. Okay? So check yourself, because you can for sure walk out of there knowing whether you're right. Okay. Let's try this one. Stella, 3-step process. There was nothing that could factor out, so step 0 is kind of useless in this case. What's step 1?
Putting x's in both parentheses.
Will x and x actually get you 3x squared?
No.
So then what?
Put a 3 and
Yes, 3x and x. Truckee, is it a plus plus, a plus minus, or a minus minus? You can know for sure.
Plus minus.
Yep. Because if there's ever a negative here, it has to be a plus and a minus. If it was 2 pluses, you'd never get a negative. If it was 2 minuses, that number would become positive. All right, and last but not least, oh crap, there's lots of choices. Kieran, give me one set of choices that could work for 10.
10 and 1.
10 and 1 for sure could work. Now we got to check it both ways though. Here, I'm checking this. Do you agree that a 10 and a negative 3 aren't going to make a 1x? Nope, that's out. Then you switch them though, because it might work if I go the other way. 10 and a 1. And I got a 30 and a 1. That's even worse. So 10 and 1 didn't work, but I tried it both ways first. All right. Pluto. I think you've got it by now. It's my theory. Am I right?
so I put 3x plus, no, well, I put 3x minus 5.
Okay. So you change this to a minus. You could be right. I don't know. Minus 5, but I know this has to be plus then.
Yeah, and then x plus 2.
All right. Now let's find out if she's right. Outside, 6x. Inside, negative 5x. Together, that and that make 1x. Boom, she's got it. But now, I'd feel so bad for the kid who got that far and then said the answers, and I know somebody's going to do this. The answers are negative 2 and positive 5. No. This one's not positive 5. Why? Because if you put a 5 in here, does this make it equal 0? No. That's the point. If you put in a negative 2, yeah, it does make it equal 0. But not if you put a 5 in. So this is more complicated than that. So this, you got to say 3x minus 5 equals 0. So 3x equals 5. So x equals 5 over 3. See how that could be problematic? So just be careful that you don't just assume that it's super easy at the very end. You just take the opposite of this number. No, you don't. You set this equal to 0. There, now we covered everything. You've seen everything you'd need to ace this test now. Now, whether you're good at it is a different question, but you've seen it all. All right. So this, look at it for a second. Both problems are very similar. Both problems should start by factoring. But on the one side, it's just factor. On the other side, it's solve. So there's no reason to do it twice. Get it factored first. And then let's see if you can solve it. I'm going to pause for a second while you give this one a try. All right, good job. So it's 5x in one and x in the other. So then I know that's what it's got to be. Next step, is it plus and a minus, minus and a minus, or plus and a plus? That would make a negative number here. You sure you want a plus and a minus?
Oh, sorry, minus.
Now you know it's minus minus. So we got almost all of it locked in. But there always has to be a little something to make it hard. And that's either 6 and a 1 or 2 and a 3. Who has played around with it enough that they found it? All right. Kai, what do you say?
-3 and -2.
Let me see if you're right. Here's how I'm going to check. Outside ones, inside ones. Outside ones is negative 10x. Inside one is negative 3x. Together they make negative 13. You are right. Guys get that? Which is just a matter of, the difference here is just a matter of one says solve and one says factor. I already factored. Now I solve and I say x equals 2 and x equals 3. Boom, so easy. So this one really, you should just write out and you should go 5x minus 3 equals 0. 5x equals 3x equals 3/5. Be careful with trying to do them in your head because a lot of times kids will just go, oh yeah, I divide the two numbers, so it's 5/3. It's 3/5. So take a second, extra heartbeat or two, write it out, say this equals 0. All right, so there's my two answers. 2 and 3/5. Okay. Now, I feel like you're ready. So, basically, it's just a matter of practicing between now and when we take the big test. So for today, the homework is a Schoology quiz, which says HA U7L4. If everybody could open that one up now, HA U7L4. And that's your homework for today.